everybody. I want to go back through this if it will work today. Um, for some reason, it doesn't want to play that way. So, okay, there we go. Now it's going to work for us. So done with closing the group, and now it's going to get to creativity in groups. And it should go on from there, if we can. So let me know if it is audible to you.
As we look at the objectives for the week, as always, I want to remind you to review the chapter for this week prior to viewing the lecture, as the lecture is intended to supplement your reading. By the end of the week, you should be able to identify the ways in which specialty groups provide assistance to specific populations and the role of creativity in delivering these services. Specialty groups are groups that focus on one particular population problem, which may include groups for military veterans, new mothers, or those who experience unemployment. These specific groups demand a wealth of knowledge and expertise from their leaders and vary greatly in terms of type and purpose. Some specialty groups may be open and psychoeducational in nature, while others are closed and psychotherapeutic. As we think about different kinds of specialty groups, I encourage you to keep in mind two things. One is that there are many, many specialty groups out there beyond the ones that we will talk about here today. The other thing to keep in mind that we will circle back to in this lecture is the role of creativity in group work. In our next lecture, we'll discuss some structured approaches to group work, but I think the Gladding text makes a fair point that creativity in the group context has the potential to facilitate growth, development, and achievement in members. As I mentioned, we'll come back to this idea in a few slides. For now, though, let's look more closely at some different kinds of specialty groups. My guess is that as we look over some of these different groups, you will be more interested in some than others, and there may be groups that don't pique your interest at all. Even if you are not interested in leading a group like this in the future, it can be very helpful to be familiar with the range and variety of groups that are available, as they are a valuable referral resource for your clients. Groups for the unemployed may provide resources for learning, increased accountability, networking, emotional support, and increased self-awareness. Research has shown that participants of so-called job clubs enjoy lower levels of frustration with the search process, used a wider variety of services, and spend more time on job search activities. Groups for the unemployed, like many kinds of groups, can minimize a sense of isolation and alleviate interpersonal and interpersonal stress and conflict. Groups for military personnel and their families help provide support for a population who have been shown to suffer from a great deal of trauma and stress, regardless of whether or not they have seen actual combat. These groups may be psychoeducational in nature to help with transitions or teach coping skills, or they may be geared more to emotional processing in the here and now through counseling groups. Regardless of the type, these groups benefit from the same environment and emotional support, from the safe environment and emotional support that groups can offer. Other specialty groups include those for new mothers or those experiencing issues with anger and aggression. Telephone groups have become popular as options for those living in rural areas, as well as caregivers or older adults who are unable to travel to group meetings. Telephone groups have been shown to have the potential to provide information, support, and coping skills to caregivers. Trauma stress groups can help members acquire new coping skills and attitudes, increase the ability to advocate for peers, improve interpersonal relationships, and positive impacts on resiliency. Groups are also geared towards a variety of disabilities, which, like all groups, require screening to ensure that the members are appropriate for the agreed upon purposes and goals. Parents of students with learning disabilities, for instance, have been shown to gain a greater sense of control and reduced stress level through group counseling. Prevention groups may help people avoid potential problems, and achievement groups promote academic achievement for adolescents through psychoeducational techniques. Both prevention and achievement groups, you will notice, target specific relations and both promote health and wellness rather than addressing an existing concern.
So there is a lot of specialty groups that you see here, and a lot of our folks in the agencies that we'll work for will benefit from it. So especially the unemployed one, trauma groups are big. Prevention, especially in alcoholism, anger and anger management. So you see a list here and a few others.
As we bridge now from specialty groups to creativity in groups, we remind ourselves that group work relies on making real contact with our members, engaging them in the process, and facilitating growth and development through this. Creativity plays an important role and is defined by Gladding as the ability to produce new and useful thoughts, behaviors, and feelings in a socially appropriate context. No group, even those that are run based on a very specific manual, is ever exactly the same. Creativity allows leaders to respond to issues that may arise with flexibility and innovation. Two models for creativity in groups are De Bono's 6 Hats approach and Orbeli's Scamper model, with apologies if I'm mispronouncing that.
So using that creativity, the citation.
Briefly, De Bono's 6 Hat approach can be used when considering a problem, difficulty, challenge, or concern by breaking that situation down using 6 different so-called hats. Using your imagination here, you try on each hat before deciding what to do and examine the issue from each perspective while in the group context. The white hat is one where questions are raised using available information only, thinking about the issue based on facts alone, remaining neutral and objective. The red hat focuses on emotions and gets at instinct and gut reactions with no justification required for the feelings that are expressed. The black hat focuses on flaws or barriers to the course of action being considered, so that care and caution must be considered. The yellow hat highlights good points that have been raised and focuses on what might be the best thing that would happen if the idea being considered was in fact adopted. The final hat, the blue hat, is the organizing hat and helps us think logically and sequentially about our thoughts. Each hat represents a way of thinking, and in the group context, each member can try the same hat at the same time to encourage deeper thought and consideration.
So that's the 6 Hat approach.
The Scamper model offers a different approach to creativity and is a mnemonic device where each letter of the word Scamper represents a different word and way of being creative. In any situation, we can use each letter to prompt a question for reflection. The S stands for what can be substituted in the situation, whether it be coming up with a different ingredient for a recipe or a different word to improve communication patterns. The C represents a question of what can be combined. Especially in the group setting, combining verses or ideas can improve upon either idea as it was individually. The A refers to adapting or adopting, which means making something your own. Your book suggests that this could include adapting to a certain communication style or adopting an open attitude toward others. The M letter represents modifying by making something larger or smaller. In a group setting, this could be modifying the seating or the length of a session based on member need. The P stands for put to other uses and encourages you to think about alternative ways to utilize certain objects or phrases. There may be a motto or something that you can think of that was used for a certain purpose in one aspect or environment of your life and has been put to use in another part of your life as well. The E reminds us to eliminate behaviors that are unproductive. Each of us can probably think of excessive behaviors, perhaps nervous ums or likes, for instance, that could be eliminated. Finally, the R stands for what can be reversed or rearranged. I especially like the idea of rearranging, where we can mentally shift our focus from one achievement, habit, concern, or regret, and instead focus on something more beneficial. It does not attempt to remove, but rather shifts focus.
So that's the Scamper model and things that we can do in the group to help be creative during the group. And there's a couple more models, but those were the ones that stuck out the most. And then here is the summary slide.
In summary, specialty groups focus on one particular problem or population, which may include groups for unemployment, new moms, anger management, or military veterans and or their families, and may also target prevention or achievement. Finally, when paired with clear goals and intentions, creativity in groups can facilitate growth and development and help overcome difficult challenges and obstacles. Thanks for listening. This is the end of Lecture 7.
All right, so some of the creative stuff here for specialty groups. I wanted to put some of that out there before you guys led your groups coming up. I know it is, it's the last day of September actually, so any date that you pick in October is okay, and I will see you all on Monday.